All right, we're live on YouTube. We're back after what, a month and a half hiatus?
Way too long.
Way too long. But we are back, and if you guys want to grab those links and link them out, let people know that we're on. And then if someone can even get the Facebook page.
I'll do the Facebook page.
You're amazing. You're amazing.
Thanks, Robert.
All right, so we're going to get back. We got about 9 questions. Once we get this shared out, we'll start the show. We got 9 questions, and then we can hear from Eric about Ledgestone. I watched the live Ledgestone yesterday.
I got a lot to catch up on.
I know. Yesterday, I watched I watched the first 11 or 12 holes, and then I stopped, and then I watched the last 2 holes. I was kind of rooting for old Gannon.
I timed him on one of the.
I almost grabbed my phone to time him.
Oh, dude. And most of the time that stuff doesn't really bother me that much. You know, if you take 40 seconds, but this was a lot of seconds.
Was it?
Yeah, it was. It was pretty long. And so, I've seen I saw Big Germ posted about it, hey, we need to change these rules at the Elite Series, and I think there's some merit to that. 30 seconds might not be enough in every situation by any means, but.
But which event did you time him at?
1 minute and 30 seconds.
Which event did you time him at?
Could be excessive.
At Ledgestone?
I think it was. I think it was just one of the shots at Ledgestone.
Oh, okay.
And you get sympathy from me. Northwoods is exceptionally difficult.
Yeah.
But
there are times where you may not have a shot, and you're having to use the time that you're allotted to figure out all the options that you can get through.
Yeah.
And here's my issue with the rule. The fact that they don't let you reset your time anymore, or they say your time doesn't reset. Think about what happened at D-Glow when Paige was putting on 18 and Sarah Hokum's dog comes running out onto the course. You don't get to reset. I'm sorry, that you've now created a rule that is now going against the spirit of the game. Because an outside factor that shouldn't be happening at a professional event happens, and that person is just supposed to say, you know what? No, you have to throw. Sorry. 30 seconds. You have to do it. But there's a dog running through the fairway. That doesn't make sense. That's just not. So I think a lot of things that have happened with some rules like this, the debris rule of you can't move stuff from inside your stance, or this outside of your stance, not so you can't clear stuff in your run-up. Those 2 rules were laid out without much forethought of how it would impact the professional level of the game. And this goes back to the standpoint of something that I've brought up many times on this show, that when a rules entity is creating rules for everyone, from 1050 rated players all the way down to 700 rated players, where all these rules are the same and they have to work, that's when you create these issues. If we were creating rules for the pros that we think work for the pros, and we created that and let that work, and let what the rules that they are as they stand now be for everything else, fine, leave it. That's great. That's for A tiers, B tiers, C tiers to make sure they work. That's for everybody to figure out how to keep with pace of play. It's a learning tool and everything like that. But we should, at the pro level, have our own set of rules.
Yeah.
Boom, done.
For sure.
I'm passionate about this.
Do you have any thoughts on that, Eric?
Are you passionate about it?
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes.
I'm kidding.
Well, right, now that you mention it, now that
you brought it up. All right, let me start the show. Here we go. We're going to start the regular show for the audio, and we'll address some of the stuff that I see on the comments on here. Did I record? Yeah, we're recording. Okay. Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of the Disc Golf Answer Man. I am Bobby Cool Daddy Slick Breeze, and we are back after a long time off. Yes, we have people on the YouTube. Chaser said, Bobby, I've been rereading your motivational post to see if you were being held captive and writing secret SOS messages. No, I was not held captive. We just had a lot going on. Eric was overseas having some fun over in Finland. Robert was doing some work and family stuff, and I was just doing some work stuff. But no, we're back. We're not 100% sure on our regular schedule because everybody of us, that's proper English, right? All of us have a lot going on, so we'll kind of see how it goes. But we're back, happy to be back to answer your questions. We're going to talk a little bit of Ledgestone. Before we start recording the audio, we were talking about the time and Gannon Buhr, and where Robert had actually took his, I'm assuming your phone, and timed when again. Was it a putt or a throw or what was it?
It was a throw, and I don't remember exactly how long it was. And I'm not the type to like beat a dead horse on this. It just did take a long time.
Yeah.
Why didn't you go to Facebook and post about it? And,
you should have.
I almost
rally
did.
Up,
I was really
rally
close.
up the keyboard warriors and make sure and get everybody going.
Because Robert, that's how.
What I want more than
anything.
anything.
That's how you make change.
That's what I was gonna say. I want to change things, so I went straight to Facebook,
right,
and I made an inflammatory post.
Exactly. Don't look at the man in the mirror. Look at the man on your laptop.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's competing at the highest level as how old is Gannon? 17 or 18-year-old?
17.
Yeah,
he's 12.
Come on.
I'm pretty sure.
So anyway,
he's the tallest 12-year-old I've ever seen.
All right.
I'm pretty sure he can't get into rated R movies.
That could be true.
I thought rated R was 17, and I thought it was 17.
Yeah, he needs his mom. That's why his mom travels with him so he can see rated R.
Oh, that's why his mom travels.
That's right. Yeah, that's why. Hey, on the subject though. Yeah, totally. On the subject, I think. Well, I know that we have questions. This is not even a hot take. I think Gannon is probably a top 5 player in the world right now.
Absolutely, Gannon is very good. He's very confident, and there's something about that level of he skipped past what took Eagle so long. Like Eagle was out on tour, but he made all the mistakes, but Gannon skipped that mistake phase and went straight to all right, I'm just executing everything, and
he's pretty unflappable.
So yeah, and I think that's the part of it is that he sees what he's supposed to do and just does it. Like he doesn't see the bads, he doesn't see anything, and just believes in the good and goes for it, and it's scary and very impressive.
He's a baller, dude.
What are his winnings so far? No, did he win Pro Tour yet? I can't remember.
He won Masters Cup?
Mm-hmm. And another, right? I don't remember. I know that he's just crushed it all year. That's all I remember.
He won
Clash.
Santa
Clash
Cruz.
the Canyons.
Oh, that was his Silver Series.
That's what I'm thinking of.
He won Gatekeeper
That's
Media.
That's a Thomas
Clash
Gilbert
Canyons.
lifeline right there. So
he got second at the Las Vegas Challenge.
Yeah, he lost in the playoff at LEC.
And second at that was a Silver Series too, at the Mid America Open.
Oh yeah.
So,
yep, he's a baller, dude.
So what do you think? How long until he wins his first Disc Golf Pro Tour
Series? Oh, it is. Oh,
if not this year, then next.
How well do you think he'll do
Agreed.
at Worlds
in
a couple weeks?
I think he'll play well. I think he has really good distance drivers right now, which is something that this isn't to knock on Prodigy. This is to knock on most companies, is that you have good distance drivers, but you have to find the right ones for specific conditions. Like there's specific runs of Enforcers, Raiders, Destroyers, Emperors, D1s, D2s, Falcors, Forces, Nukes, whatever. And there are just going to be ones that you have to have for a course like Emporia if the wind picks up, and or just in general, reliable, overstable, that can't flip, but they still go far. And I believe he has those discs, and those are some of the best discs he's throwing, which a testament to how well he plays it. He played at Eureka, so I genuinely think he's going to do very, very well. So
very cool. All right, we're going to get to the questions, but before we do, remind people that we have a bag to give away, and we did reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers, so I appreciate you guys doing that. And we're not going to pick it tonight. We're going to pick it and announce it next show. But we're super excited to give away that bag. We'll let Eric know where to send that bag. But we're going to get to the questions.
Send it.
You guys can go to discgolfanswerman.com, submit your disc golf questions. This first one comes Phaedra. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed your holiday cards. Okay, these are going to be older ones, just in case, so you know. Hope you enjoyed your holiday cards. If you could create either a TV show or a movie centered around disc golf, which would you choose? What would the story you would tell? Keep up the great work with the podcast. So yes, Phaedra has sent, when we were at Dynamic Disc, I think for 2 or 3 years in a row, she sent us some holiday cards, and they're always really cool. They were like little cutouts, and they're like little disc golf scenes with a basket and a disc and stuff like that. So really cool. So thank you for doing that, Phaedra. But if you could create either a TV show or a movie centered around disc golf, which would you choose? I would say a movie, and it would have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in the jungle. And he'd have, in order to save his kidnapped wife and kids, he would have to create a course in the jungles of Panama. And the villain would be Tommy Lee Jones, and they would have to play. It would be literally sudden death every hole.
Whichever one of them loses actually dies.
Right, and so it wouldn't be a very long movie, apparently. So.
Cool.
No, the whole build up until the
I think that's promising.
Yeah.
On the real, I would make
that.
On the real, I would make a TV show. I would sell it to Netflix. It would do exceptionally well because that's like what TV shows do on Netflix now. And yeah, that's it.
Accurate.
What about you, Eric?
I've been leaning more on like looking at the Fierce documentary. I'd do a docuseries, kind of like Sunderland Till I Die or the Leeds documentary that was on Amazon. So like one of those that follows multiple touring players around and like keeps up with their stories and stuff like that, and sees their like the ups and the downs and gets a little bit more of that background. And is just they don't know how the documentary is going to go, so they can't paint the picture, so they just are like, we're going to follow these 4 players, and they might not ever play well at an event, but you get to see that whole process that I think could be great.
I haven't watched the Paige Pierce documentary. Did you guys watch it?
It's well worth it, Bobby. It's
incredible. Going to. We have a couple weeks, right, where you can get it on pay-per-view or something like that?
I believe so.
Very cool. All right. So... But for sure, be on the lookout about I'm in talks with The Rock right now, so we'll see how that pans out. Next question.
I didn't realize you were so far along in the project.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, this question's from way back. It gave me some ideas, so I kind of been in the mix of things. We've got a few contract things to take over. He's got to finish his promotion of Black Adams, and then we'll look into it.
Yeah, cool, man.
Hey, DeGam Cast, this is JK in New Mexico. On your last episode, altitude was one of the topics discussed, and it made me wonder, what is the highest course that you have ever played or that you know of? I often play the mountain course in Cloudcroft, New Mexico, and from the number 2 tee box, which is the highest point on the course, the reading on the iPhone Compass app has it at 8,830 feet above sea level.
Dang.
Are we top 10 in terms of elevation? I can tell you that the views up there are spectacular. Spectacular. Oh,
yeah. That's definitely got to be up there.
The West White Sands National Park and some of the Tularosa Basin can be seen way down and across the valley floor, as well as the summit of Sierra Blanca to the north. However, no disc is understable in that thin air. Shot selection is sure challenging. I'd say that's pretty high.
Solitude Mountain Resort in Salt Lake City, or just outside of Salt Lake City. That is one that I've gone and played, and I think I played with Kessler Martin while I was there before Preserve when I went to Utah, and I think we had it at over 7,000, if not 8, closer to even pushing 9 at certain parts, but I am not sure. And yes, that it's really high up. It's really cool, and I think there's a few other that kind of reach that same level of elevation. Actually, it makes me want to look up one.
All right, next one was from Mr. Dr. Professor Patrick. How long will it be before we see local youth disc golf leagues? Other sports are huge for kids growing up. Didn't know the DeGam thoughts on youth disc golf leagues starting up, and how would you go about doing this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see why there wouldn't be any. Why there couldn't be.
I mean, I could see it's like it's the same reason that there aren't a ton of kids in golf. I mean, there's quite a few, but it's not like soccer or baseball or anything like that. You'd have to have so much more supervision, and if you've ever gone out and played disc golf with kids, you know how difficult it is to corral four of them to play around, let alone 10 or 20 or however many. Since it's done on more of an individual basis, the ratio of adults to kids is probably more difficult. So I think it has less to do with like how popular the sport is and more to do with that it's more difficult to facilitate. But I mean, I think it's probably there's a decent chance we could see something like that in the future start to pop up.
Definitely.
I could see that. The logistics would definitely be a thing. I know that like my grandson Eli was getting into disc golf, and he still plays a little bit, but his parents wanted him to get involved with some kind of sports, and it was kind of difficult not having a lot of events happening that had juniors in it. So it was like there wasn't a lot of events. So he would just play a bunch of casual rounds. He would never play anything where he's like really super competitive. So.
Gotcha.
Whereas other sports are a lot more prevalent, so I could see it being a challenge to get it going. All right, Mike wants to know, during a recent casual round, one of my son's shots came to rest on top of the basket above the band. In this particular case, it was hole 10 at Raptors Knoll in Langley, British Columbia. There was no playing surface directly beneath the disc that was not inside the basket. The bottom of the basket was in direct contact with rocks that compromised the hole's main feature. If the position of a disc above the playing surface is defined as on the playing surface directly below the disc, Rule 805.01c, and that spot is in the basket, would that not mean that his shot is in? Or should the basket instead be considered an obstacle, which seems a bit weird, which physically prevents him from marking his lie there, as per Rule 803.02b? Thoughts?
I think it becomes like in this, I could be wrong in this interpretation, he plays from the first available lie from the pin and he marks there. If it's unplayable from those rocks and everything, that would be my interpretation of how he would play it, but I could not reference the rules that would dictate and show that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be in the same boat. It'd be like if the 2-meter rule was not in effect and you got your disc caught up in the middle of a tree, like not in the branches, but like behind the trunk.
Yeah, like
in
the trunk of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, then you would play in line with the basket, like directly in line with the basket at the first available place that you could mark it. That more than likely would not be a fun lie for you. Yes, but it doesn't say the first comfortable lie. Yeah, it doesn't say the most comfortable lie. It just says first available. So I'm sure it would play like that if you weren't able to get a foot behind it.
Yeah. Tell them to put it in the chains next time so it's not as confusing.
Yeah, come on now.
If you go ahead and make it the first time, you don't have to worry about it.
Learn how to play even the game. All right, next question comes from Tommy. I'm just curious about signature series discs and payment to players. Do players actually get paid when a store or site sells the disc or when the store places their order for the disc? Thanks, and I love the show.
Usually it's when it leaves the manufacturer. The main manufacturer.
Yeah. The answer is also it depends, right?
Yeah.
Because there are some stores that partner directly with players, and so they might get paid twice on it, like when they order from the manufacturer and when the shop sells it. But for the most part, like, let's say if you're supporting an end of a player and you buy a disc from Play It Again Sports, then the player got paid on that disc when it was purchased by Play It Again Sports, not when you purchased it from Play It Again Sports.
Interesting. So tell us a little about Ledgestone, Eric. How did it go out there in Peoria, Illinois? What was it like? I know the crowds were pretty big. I know there was a lot of hype around them raising a lot of money and stuff like that. So tell us a little about the atmosphere out at Ledgestone.
It was great. I personally did not have a good tournament. I only had one really good round. Um, but I think Eureka and Northwood are two quality courses. Eureka, I think, is kind of tapped on where it is and what it is going to be. I don't know if you could do much to change that course. I think there's maybe some minor changes that could help it. A couple rules changes that would really improve the course. But then going over to Northwood, I think it's way better than it was last year. It's incredibly hard, but I still think there's work to be done, mainly on the two late par fives, hole 12 and hole 14. And I think if they can kind of relinquish this idea of having these absolutely punishing and outrageous par fives and allowing us to kind of reach the landing zones that they're trying to more with a little bit easier, I definitely think the scores will play better than these really wild swings. I mean, I don't think people are loving seeing players pitch out multiple times on a hole. And as a player watching it happen, you don't enjoy watching your card mates have to pitch out. That's the only option because of how dense the rough is in a lot of places on that course. So I do think that kind of brings together some. It's like it is hard because you shouldn't end up where you have to pitch out, but at the same time, when you're throwing a lot of blind shots as well, and or navigating really tight tunnels, tree kicks can take you to places that are pretty rough. On the FPO side, it looked like the course played really good, Northwood wise. We saw some really good scores. Seeing Alexis Montejuano pop off at the end, and big hats off to Missy Gannon for taking it down, like getting another Elite Series under her belt. And I think this one probably means a lot to her, as it just she earned it on some of the hardest courses they play, and I think that's definitely suits her game, and she just went out and putted like a champ. So that was sweet. Sunset, I think, always plays well for the women, gives them kind of a pretty close to a birdie or die, but yeah, it just showed. You saw some really good scores, so I think all in all, Ledgestone is quality. They raised $150,000 for St. Jude, which is that's nuts. So that's very, very cool. Yeah, I think there's something to be said about a tournament like Ledgestone. Yeah. If we could get more places like it on tour that are able to do the fundraising and have that type of infrastructure to make it work, it would be great. But I don't think that that's necessarily feasible, because Nate Heinold he's like a hero in the Peoria, Eureka, Morton area, Washington part of Illinois, that whole area, those cities. Like he's been there. I would imagine his whole life, and everybody knows who he is, because they knew who he is before he was really big into disc golf, and now they definitely know who he is, because he's been able to kind of fundraise and bring thousands of people into the area and boost the economy like that. I heard there was a field of 530 players this weekend in MA2. That's insane. 530 players played in MA2 at this event. Think about that. That's nuts, right?
It is.
That's like so that bring that into perspective. That's crazy. It did have an impact because we did not have as many spotters at Northwood Black, which that was like kind of like a, hey, this is probably not good, but at the same time, a lot of people who might be volunteering were playing. That's something that I will leave to taking to the PDGA feedback form, instead of talking about it here on social media. But very cool. Fly Mart was amazing. Lots of really cool things, and then obviously getting to see Rick kind of kind of shut the door on the rest of the field at Eureka the final day. I actually walked with James Proctor, Andrew Marweed, Calvin Heimberg, and Corey Ellis on the final day, and Corey Ellis just had an absolute stellar round, 10 down, I believe, and it was pretty windy too. And that dude is definitely in the realm of a he's pushing close to being a top 10 player.
Yeah.
I think Corey Ellis has always
he's
had the potential to be in that realm, but I think he's finally putting it together, and I would put him in that conversation, especially after D-Glow and his popping off at the end to finish well at Ledgestone. I would definitely consider him a top 10 player going into this upcoming weekend as that goes, and I think he has potential to go even higher. So very cool to watch, and I think it was kind of cool because they had a cut, and I was able to go be a spectator for the first time in a while. So that was very fun, and just got to go hype and be in absorb positive disc golf. So
very cool.
So,
Awesome. I got to watch a little bit of the live on Sunday. I did catch the really cool shot of Gannon. Hole, was it 9 from the drop
9,
zone?
the bridge.
Yeah, drop zone from the bridge. That was pretty cool. It was actually pretty cool to see it happen on the drone shot. That was pretty nice to see it that way.
Yeah.
So
There's a handful of aces too.
Yeah.
3 aces on hole 7 at Eureka.
Wow.
Erica Stinchcomb had an ace on
I saw that.
11 at Northwood. Her first ace ever. Not just tournament ace, her first ace ever.
Wow.
Super cool. Ezra aced the water tower. Emerson Keese aced hole 17 at Eureka. People were people were popping off. Chanman got 7. It was sweet.
Popping off.
Yeah. Popping off.
All right, let's get back to the
the
questions.
water tower ace is pretty sick. I mean, not that it's like a crazy. It's not that it's like a it's not the most difficult shot anybody threw all weekend. It's just like a cool ace to get. You don't get to see it go in, but you just see everyone react to it. Like that's
just
pretty
go
cool.
Crazy. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
For sure.
All right, this next question is from Don B. I found that I struggled to put height on my throws and also struggled throwing uphill. The disc usually comes out nose up. Any suggestions on how to stop this?
I think it can come with your posture in a lot of ways. Like you might be leaning over a lot on those throws. And throwing uphill is another part where posture kind of plays into it, but also your reach back. If you're reaching back to throw uphill, you don't reach back straight back. You actually reach back down to match the plane to throw up the hill. So you need to try and figure out how that works to throw up. And, most shots throwing uphill, you're going to throw nose up because you kind of have to, because you need it to lift and stay up. But as long as you're kind of matching the plane, it should have some good push. Always go more understable when you're throwing uphill if you're trying to get more distance uphill. But yeah, what do you think about, Robert, when you're talking about like height? I feel like, like I'm trying to think, like if I'm trying to like go lower, I try and lean over a little bit, but yeah, it's different.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, especially if when you're throwing uphill, is you're thinking about your reach back. Because like a cardinal sin in disc golf, I mean, I guess this isn't true across the board because there are some people that reach back high, but like I would never teach a person to reach back high to get their throw to go high, because then you just do this swoop and it doesn't get the nose down quite like you want to, right? Well, if you're throwing uphill, your normal flat reach back is the equivalent of reaching back high because of the plane that you're throwing on, right? And so you have to adjust that to reaching back low. It's like it's just a really weird adjustment. So matching your arm to the plane of the hill that you're throwing up, I think, is pretty important. And like Eric said, I mean, you almost can't go understable enough, because you'll find, especially if you're throwing up a steep hill, your disc is going to act, 2 notches more stable or something like that. So that's what I think about. If I'm trying to throw high just on flat ground, you're probably asking the wrong person. I got a weenie arm for that. But I try and focus on getting the nose down, because about the worst thing that you can do is just throw a high shot like just on the same plane as your arm is, because it's just never going to go anywhere. So it's best if you're going to throw a high shot, either throw a nice big towering hyzer over stable disc. Great, start it on that angle. If you're gonna throw a big shot over something on an anhyzer, you've got to really follow through toward the ground, as counterintuitive as it is, because that's what it takes to get the nose down, to get the disc to fly right.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. All right, next one comes from JK back in New Mexico. After her impressive victory at Idlewild, and given that so many of the discs in the DGA line are named for types of energy found in the ocean, has anyone suggested branding her new sponsorship as Katrina and the Waves? Of course, her win this past weekend could hardly be described as walking on sunshine, eh? I guess he sent that back in July, so that would have been a while back. So I don't know the marketing behind at DGA, so I'm not sure if they've suggested that.
So I know I found this out. One of their series of stamps, they did through, I think it was 3 drivers, and if you put the 3 discs together, it created one full portrait.
Oh,
so
I didn't know
DJA
that.
is doing some cool stuff stamp wise. Yeah, they tend to do a lot of different natural earthy things. So everybody has their thing.
I don't know. John over on YouTube brought up an interesting question. Get your thoughts on it, Eric.
Yeah.
What is your take on spectators being too close to the OB line, interfering with the shots? And that's been brought up on the live coverage a few times.
Yeah, I think that comes from the tournament staff themselves, where not necessarily the DGPT staff, but I think it should be a combination of both. Understanding where shots are most likely to end up and putting spectator lines in the proper places. I know this isn't going to reach the audience that I want it to, but if you go spectate at an event, the thing that I believe is a more important factor of being a spectator is understanding that there are 50, 60, 70 players on the course while you're walking around. It's not just the person you're trying to go and watch. There are so many other players. So this is bringing to a different part of, I have seen too often players going to try and find a card of players they want to watch and being on a card where I'm now being distracted by these people walking through our fairway or walking along between holes to get to the card they want to see, now causing a distraction that feels somewhat unfair and doesn't really work. Is like, totally understanding where you are on the course is very important. Always be looking to see if you need to be still. Always be looking, or always be aware if you need to be quiet. Like I've wanted to actually work with doing a video that is like proper spectator etiquette when you come to and it gets sent out with every email, every time people are going out to stuff, it gets shared around. Maybe if it's an ad on DGN, I don't care. Like, it's something that just is, this is what you should do if you come watch a live event. And it brings me back to what we talked about earlier before we started recording with our 30 seconds doesn't reset. So if some person decides to walk on pebbles and crunching rocks while I'm trying to throw a 20-footer, I can't say, hey man, could you stop? And then I reset and do my putt. Because if they're doing that and I take over 30 seconds, I have now left myself into being in a rules infraction. So right. I think that there are more important things about spectators, and I think that the question that was brought up, that could be alleviated with working on the courses and understanding the most common areas where discs may go OB or may come into play, and pushing those lines a little bit farther back, and or being ready and somebody in the crowd saying, hey, everybody needs to be careful, they're throwing a hyzer at you, so you need to be ready to move, type of stuff. So I think those are the big things that I would hopefully focus on and look to fix, if anything.
Yeah. I'll share a quick personal story about this. The year that I started working at Dynamic Discs, I went out to the memorial. Right after I started, a week after I started. I've been playing disc golf for quite a while and had been to plenty of tournaments and spectated and all that. But I was walking out at Vista, and if you've been out to Vista, once you do the long walk, it's like holes 9, 10, 11, somewhere in there. You have a big long walk to the other side of the park, right? I don't remember what hole it is, but then there's like 3 baskets where you can see all of the baskets and everyone can see you. So there's like one over here, one over here, one over here. And I'd seen that course on video, but I'd never seen it in person. I was walking to find our players, dude, and I worked the crap out of Valerie Jenkins when she was putting. Not on purpose, of course, but just like I didn't realize where I was going. I was looking around, and eventually she or somebody on her card flagged me down. I was like, "Hey, can you just stand still?" And it's about as embarrassed as I've ever been.
Oh, yeah.
Because I mean, like, I work in the industry, so all of that to say, it's easy to do. Make sure that you are as conscious as you can possibly be when you're at a tournament, because yeah. Be aware. Keep those eyes up.
Yeah, I've showed up at events.
Sorry, Valerie.
To do media stuff, and you get nervous because you just don't know, and you're looking at the UDisc app, and it's like you're just it's so conscious of like, am I in the fairway? Am I in someone's line of sight or whatever? So anyway, all right. Well, it looks like we have some speak pipes, so I'm going to see this one's back in May. I'm not sure what this is going to be about, so we'll see if you guys, hopefully, I think I have everything set up. We'll see if you guys can hear it. Let me know.
This is Josh in South Florida, and I have a question about pace. I just threw a couple rounds, and I threw the disc really well. I keep track of my throws on UDisc, and I think for my last round, my drives were 97%, which is, I think, my best ever. But I noticed as I was throwing, if I don't overthink it, if I just kind of recognize what I need to do, step up and throw it,
I think we did.
I throw it much better than if I have extra time, such as in like a league or a tournament, where the pace is much slower and much more time to think about each throw and the things that could go wrong.
All right, so it looks like we did that one. So we'll
we did
that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just and to quickly answer is, if you're playing practice rounds and you play really good fast, you need to slow down your practice rounds and try and simulate more tournament round feels and timing. So yeah.
Gotcha.
Great question, though.
This one was
That's
just
good
sent
reminder.
by Chaser, so we'll see. This one, he said he just sent it.
Yo, Shay, let's go.
Good. Here we go.
Welcome back, D-Game crew. This is Shay from Philly with a rules question for you. This past weekend, we saw Paige. I think she was putting, and she ended up falling forward and catching herself on a tree, and she called herself on a stance violation. Nobody on the card seconded it, though, because they said they couldn't tell or couldn't see. I think it was Jeff Spring who finally stepped in and said, she had committed the violation, and she was assessed a stroke penalty. So my question to you guys, first off, cool on her for policing herself and being honest. But my question is, should it just be a default rule? Like if you call yourself on a penalty, it doesn't need to be seconded. I'm trying to think of a situation where this might somehow be beneficial, where a player can call themselves on a violation and it automatically gets called and they benefit from it somehow. But I haven't figured out one yet. So I was curious if things would be something we could fast track to say, if you call yourself on a penalty, you are assessed the penalty without needing a second. Let me know what your thoughts are. And as always, keep it real.
This is something that I know this is coming to a conversation. I can't remember what it was, but it was if you called yourself on it, it actually benefited you. But I can't remember the
This
scenario.
used to be when you had the old
Foot
rule
faults.
of foot faults. You get one rethrow. So you could, I missed this 20-footer. Oh, I fell forward. Oh, I guess I had foot fault. Second? Okay, cool. Jam. And that was something and that's why they got rid of that rule. Okay. Just to clarify, Paige called it. Jeff did a temporary second, but they checked the rules to make sure they were getting the rule call correct. It was not a stance violation because the tree was behind her lie. So there's nothing in the rules that says you can't putt and then grab a tree behind your lie to help your balance. I thought that was I thought Paige's interpretation was correct, but it's not. So apparently, Paige actually got the 2 on that whole 11 final round. If you go look on UDisc, she got a 2. So I do believe players should be calling themselves and can call themselves. I think it would be great if we did, personally.
Yeah, it was the old foot fault rule, and like now that the rule has changed, I think it's totally reasonable for players to call that on themselves, and in the spirit of the game, like Paige was calling what she thought was the correct rule, even though it was against her. She did the right thing. She should be able to just say, "Yeah, I did that. I followed through."
Yeah, but that's at the same time as like she's calling herself on a rule that actually she didn't violate, so it becomes different. It becomes very difficult in that aspect. But genuinely, I think you should be able to call yourself if you feel yourself at fault. If you see yourself at fault, you should be able to say I foot faulted, and that brings more integrity. What's that? What's the movie? There's a Legend of Bagger Vance or whatever it is, where it's one of those golf movies where it's like coming down to it, and he like moves the ball on accident when he's approaching his lie, and then it's like this whole thing, and it's like that's the integrity, and that's what people have been taught and learned in golf. But in disc golf, we've learned it's like kind of don't if you don't see it, if nobody sees it, it's okay kind of thing. No cop, no stop, right?
Right.
Why is it? Now this is. Why is it?
No, please stop at stop signs and stoplights. I don't want to send the wrong message.
Why is it if it's behind you, it's okay, but not if it's in front of you and you're falling? Either way, you're falling.
Because it's everything behind your lie is fair
safe.
Game, I guess.
You could, the way that the rule is written, you have to establish balance behind your lie, right? So like you could, if you wanted, listeners, I do not advise this. You could putt in the circle and fall backwards every time you wanted to, and it'd be fine. Don't, but you could. Like that's in the rules. It's the falling forward part that's the problem. Though I would have had the same interpretation as Paige in that situation.
It's interesting. All right, we got time for a couple more questions. This one's from Tyler. Hey, DeGam fam. Questions about marking your lie. I recently played a tournament, and one of the players on my card had marked his lie by flipping his disc. Another player on my card then told him he now was no longer able to use that disc for the rest of the tournament because of that. What? I've done some independent research since this has occurred and found that this doesn't follow the specific rule of marking and would be a violation. But to not let a player use a disc for the rest of the tournament seemed a little sketchy, and any clarification you can give would be much appreciated. Keep it real. My understanding is that in a sanctioned tournament, you can leave your disc, but you can't flip the disc. You've got to use a marker. You can't touch your disc. So, like if I throw a berry, a mid-range from Clash disc, if I throw that, I can step up to it and throw from there, but I can't flip it and then say that I'm just using the whole, the whole distance or whatever. We do it in like casual stuff in minis and casual rounds, but not in a sanctioned event. You have to use your marker if you want to use that specific disc. And now if you flip that disc, or if you use your disc as the marker but don't flip it because you're not allowed to flip it, you can use that disc anytime you want. You don't lose access to that disc.
So somebody brought this up while we were playing because they left their mini and couldn't find it. It's like, can I mark my lie with the disc and then I no longer use this because it becomes your mini as a disc? So he brought that up, but I have no idea what this rule is and where to find it and what it stands, what it means. So I don't think flipping is something that you should be able to.
Wait, so you're saying the person asked if he could use his disc, and then he'd say, "I won't use it again if I use it"?
Well, he was like, that was his interpretation of the new rule, is that you can use one of the discs from your bag as your mini, but it's your mini no longer, and it's no longer a legal disc for you to throw. No. And I agree with what Chaser said, that a disc is too big to be a standard marker.
Right.
I don't know, and this is again, if we touch base on some of the rules things that have been happening within the PDGA, this is the main issue. We run into this where they're creating and changing and doing rules that have to affect everyone, and yet this rule should never happen at the pro level. Like, and also, I'm sorry. I don't want this to be like I think the PDGA is doing a bad job, but straight up, they suck at making rules right now for the pros. And if the issue is that they need to fix the rules for A tiers, B tiers, C tiers, and lower tier events, cool. They should put their focus and do a good job of that and make things clear. Make things so easy to understand, not this vague rules and everything. It should be make the rule book bigger, give us more rules, make it easy to find, and let's figure it out. Because right now it's this is the conversation is somebody has an old interpretation, somebody has a new interpretation, somebody has their own thoughts, what they've heard from some old guy back at the course of how they used to do it. Like, we don't know a lot of the rules and how to play within them in tournaments. So
Yeah, interesting.
I don't hate the PDGA.
I would push back. I would push back on the mini marker part of this, though, that like just because somebody misunderstands the rule and like has misunderstood it for a while doesn't mean that it's a bad rule. Like the mini marker one, I think is fine. I don't think this is what you're saying, Eric, but the mini marker one is fine. Like they have a maximum length that a mini should be. It's like, you know, the size of a mini buzz or mini sheriff or whatever it is, like 6 inches. So you can't just use a disc out of your bag and then say, this is my mini. That's just somebody who doesn't understand, who maybe heard that from somebody else saying, I can use this. By and large, I agree that there should probably be a separate set of rules for you guys. But the mini thing is just somebody who misunderstood the rule.
Yeah, that's weird. All right, we got last question from Tim. Question for Eric. The basket at the second course for the PCS Sula Open seemed to produce a lot of spit outs. Were they just old baskets, or what up with that?
So those are old disc golf park baskets. So they kind of look like Innova-made baskets, but they are a single ring configuration rather than a 2-ring configuration. That single ring, what happens is once you hit the outside chains, that ring moves because it's hitting the outside chains. Moves, which then moves the inside chains. So those inside chains shouldn't be moving, but they are because it's a single ring concept. So those single rings are moving, and now they're moving and sometimes moving out of the way, so the disc is penetrating even farther into the pole and bouncing out. They also had a smaller cage. But then when we went to European Open, they had updated disc catchers, which I believe were still the single ring configuration, but they had a deeper cage. So it gave it more space to hit off the pole and maybe catch the cage to stay in.
All right, there you go. All right, folks. Well, there's a little debate going on YouTube chat for mini markers as pizzas or cookies. So we're not sure what was determined there, if we could use a cookie as a mini marker or not.
I mean, as Reed has in it, I think it's fair.
It's
It
valid.
meets
It's
the
legal.
specification.
So now I'm hungry for dinner, so I'm going to let you guys go. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate you guys being patient with us as we took a little break. We're going to see how this goes.
Tune into the next one. We're going to announce the giveaway.
Yeah, we'll announce the giveaway for the bag, so make sure you're tuned in and ready for that. And we appreciate you keep sending those questions into the discgolfanswerman.com. Submit those questions in. Check us out on Instagram. And, we'll see you on the next show, guys.